So I want to get into the habit of talking about augury more often. I'm going to talk about that in a couple minutes here. So two things that I've experienced in the last 12, 13 hours. So what is augury? Let's start with that. So augury, it deals with reading the natural world for one, or just reading the experiences and the sights and the occurrences in your environment. So the whole idea is that we live in this quantum universe, this holistic universe where everything is connected. And because of that, seemingly unrelated things are very much related. And one thing that seems to be unrelated to another will tell you something about that other thing. So, you go out into your natural environment and there's something going on with the sky or the trees or with the weather. It'll tell you something about the human world, whether it's for the collective or just for your own life. That's the basic idea with augury. It's the ability to read your environment. So it's not just the natural world, but things in the human world as well, because they're all part of the holistic quantum holographic universe. So augury is about reading the environment so you can understand what is going on in a very image-based, right-brained, more symbolic kind of a way that basically bypasses your analytical number crunching and delivers a powerful message of a more intuitive nature. And granted, there is some amount of intellectuality and what's the other word I'm looking for? Analysis. And that takes place in the interpretation of the images and of the occurrences and the experiences. So augury has been a big deal throughout human history. And augury is something that the major world religions did in the early days and to the present do not want people to do. They love it when people are in complete suspense and they need one of their middlemen, one of their clergymen, clergywomen, to tell people what they need to know and to, basically placate them. Or at the very least, some churches, denominations cut out the middleman and they're like, well, you just need the rule book. Well, you don't need a rule book. You have your own mind, you have your intellect, you have the world around you, you have your soul. So, what's the augury I want to talk about today? So, it's about 4 p.m. East Coast of the U.S. right now. At about 3:30 or 4 a.m., there was a pretty wicked thunderstorm here. So, thunder, lightning, heavy rain. There were basically two waves of it. And man, it was danger close. So, if you're not familiar with the term danger close, it's basically a military term where if somebody on a front line needs help, either in the form of a plane or a helicopter, dropping a bomb or firing a missile, or in the form of artillery, it means put it almost on top. They're telling the person to put it almost on top of them because the enemy's that close. So lightning was like, this is the first thing I thought of. I said it to somebody today. I was like, yeah, that shit was danger close. Like it was just rattling my house. It woke me up. My hair was, the hairs of my body were standing on end. It was pretty cool. It was fun and kind of freaky at the same time. So we had that happen, and it's like, well, when I see thunderstorms, lightning storms, I think of the archetype of Thor or Donar. as he's called more in Germany. So Donar or Thor, it's a thunder god. So it's not a literal thunder god. Um, the thunder god is an archetype. It's a human, you know, it's like a humanoid archetype for electromagnetic energy in the universe. Now, this thunder god in the mythology is the enforcer and the keepers of the laws who are handed down from the Sky Father, who lives in the pole star, the North Star, which sits above the Earth's axis. So the Sky Father, Tyr, in the Germanic tradition, Tyr or Tu, the Sky Father hands down the law. Thor or Donar enforces it. So these mythological archetypes mean that electromagnetism is the governing sort of one of the big governing principles in the universe, and it basically holds everything together. It connects everything, even things that are seemingly unrelated. So electromagnetism is a big deal. You know, in high school and college physics, they teach you that, oh, gravity, that gravity is the big force in the universe. Well, then outside of that, the physicists will admit that electromagnetism is something like 10 to the 23rd power stronger than gravity. So imagine 10 with 23 more zeros to the left of a comma, or, period, the dot if you're in Europe. I don't even know what that number is. It's beyond, trillions and quadrillions and all that kind of thing. So that's how strong electromagnetism is, but it's not fully acknowledged in mainstream science. So electromagnetism, it keeps my ass from falling through the chair I'm sitting on, because it creates these bonds between the particles that my physical body and the chair are made up of, and it keeps them separate. So the thunder god Thor, Donar, this electromagnetic force, it maintains the boundaries of things, keeps things from blurring into each other. And this is true of physical objects, and it's true of people's personal boundaries. You want to have, you want to be able to give of yourself and receive from others, receive love and, all that kind of thing. But you also want to have boundaries and be separate, because you can't give to anyone if you are not a self, if you are not a well-defined self. So this archetype of the thunder god has, many, many functions to it. So, and none of the gods anywhere are really real the way we think they are. And they're all forces. It's like even, the Jehovah Yahweh archetype. That's the ego. That's the great I am. That's a whole other video. But humans around the beginning of the age of Aries, maybe the age of Taurus, so we're thinking at least 4,000 years ago, they went through a neurological change where they started becoming individuals, whereas before they were part of a hive mind. So this Jehovah Yahweh was the God of that age that gave people individuality. He said, I am that I am. I'm the great I am. This can be in balance, or it can be out of balance. And this is why, like King David wanted to take his friend's wife. And he's like, hey, God, can I take his wife? Can I, send him into battle? And he's like, he's not one of us. He's not a true believer. So it's probably okay. And, God's like, yes, you are my chosen king of my chosen people. And, there was this like co-signing of the genocide in the land of Canaan. So anyway, these gods stand for, they're archetypes that stand for forces within ourselves and within the universe. So let's get back to the point. So we had this big thunderstorm. So thunderstorm, mythologically, archetypally, it's saying that the thunder god is fighting the giants. Now the giants are these forces of nature that devour things, that consume things. So people who have no boundaries in the Germanic mythological sense are giants. They step on houses, they pick up humans by the handful and eat them and eat people's livestock, and they'll take a dump on your wheat field. They have no sense of boundaries. They don't even know they're hurting people. So the people controlling again our political, financial, educational, religious institutions. These people are giants. They have no boundaries. So through these archetypes, through this mythology, when you have a lightning storm, it stirs up that, oh, the thunder god is fighting these giants. Now, the thunder god is the protector of humanity in my ancestors' spiritual tradition, in this Norse Germanic tradition, and in pretty much everywhere else across Eurasia and beyond. So I'm reminded of these mythological archetypes when there's a, pretty wicked, like a good thunderstorm. So then I go back to sleep after that thunderstorm. I wake up. After a while, I turn my phone on, and there's a message, an email. Well, actually, it's a screenshot. So my mom received an email this morning, took a screenshot, and then sent it to me. And I'll share that as a post. I have her name blurred out, to protect personal details, but everything else is generic. So she got this email. She was supposed to be paid today. And the email explains that on Thursday, the company, and she works for a transportation company. So, and this was sent to all employees. So, they provide transportation, buses, limos, shuttles, all that kind of stuff. These people aren't making, 15,000, a month. But anyway, they're not making a whole lot of, they're not making a ton of money. So anyway, the email explains that on Thursday, the funds for the payroll were disbursed from the company she works for, this AA Transportation that you'll see on this email. Funds were disbursed from the employer to the payroll company, and the payroll company was just supposed to disburse to the individual accounts for direct deposit. But the explanation that came from the payroll company was that the money did not get to the employees' accounts because of a problem with the Fed system, the Federal Reserve, the banking system. So this is pretty interesting. Maybe some of these will pop up. I don't think the widespread version of this is going to pop up yet, but it's definitely a sign of the times. Like, the last time I'm aware of people not getting paid due to a big systematic thing was like back in the 90s when Bill Clinton had the government shut down. He was playing political games, and federal employees didn't get paid when they were supposed to, and it was a big uproar, federal employees, military, all that shit. So this is a sign of the times here where the banking system can't transfer direct deposits. So we're definitely into some shit. The dollar's been very broken for a long time, especially the last 20 plus years. And you've got these psychopaths trying to implement their central bank digital currency in an attempt to control everything we do. It's going to be a massive pushback, and it's not going to work well for them. But they're going to make a mess, and they're going to create some hype to make it look like they're winning. So when you put these two things together with this augury, this wicked thunderstorm in my local area, and then I get this email with this really major banking system problem where my mom and her fellow employees can't get paid, even though the company has plenty of money to do so, to send to payroll. So when you put these two things together, for me, it's like this thunder god, this enforcer of natural law, Thor Donar, is doing some house cleaning in this very artificial, contrived human money system. And things that are not natural, they're not based on the principles and laws of nature, they don't persist for long. You can rig them up and get them to last for a little while, but they collapse. So there's something major going on here. I don't have to tell all of you that, but just wanted to share this, little augury here, and it's a little sort of a crack in the matrix, so you can see through it and not have to mentally trip over data and make yourself fucking crazy and all ungrounded from, reading hundreds of pages. You can get a quick look and you just go back to what you're doing, and go enjoy your life instead of sinking hours into data crunching. Um, so play around with this whole idea of auguries. It's only limited by your creativity. Now, with that said, people could say, well, that's just subjective to you, these occurrences. Well, it totally is, because I'm living my own life here, and I was the only person today to really to experience those two events firsthand. So, this isn't a thing where you have undeniable proof. It's part of your subjective experience, but you are part of the whole. So, I think there's something to it. I find it interesting. Now, by the same token, people get totally batshit crazy about this stuff. So, you know, we all know people where they're like, "Oh, I wanted to have some tortilla chips, and I dumped them from the bag into a bowl, and there were 46 tortilla chips. What does it mean? There are 46 chromosomes. Does it mean that I'm getting an ascension DNA download?" And they drive themselves fucking nuts with this stuff. So, you have to take it with a grain of salt, and I can't shout from the rooftops that, like, oh, it's happening, it's all coming apart. Well, I mean, it is all coming apart, but I can't use my experiences to make grandiose claims. It's something that informs my perspective about this world I'm living in. And the more you do this, it changes your consciousness. The more that more people do this, it changes the whole collective consciousness. So again, this is something that religion does not want people to do, because people don't have to go through the clergy or the rule books or anything like that. So, the holy rule books. So, yeah, I thought I'd share this. That's going to be it. Have a good one.